audit procedures to respond to that risk, performing tests of the operating effectiveness of internal controls, performing substantive tests over financial statement amounts, and then evaluating, concluding, and reporting procedures. In general, our understanding of the entity flows through all 8 of these processes and affects the audit in a variety of different ways. So knowledge we obtain from preliminary engagement activities, the identification of your major programs and compliance requirements applicable to that major program can help us determine materiality and customize the audit plan to respond to risks. Knowledge gained in our risk assessment process and other procedures we performed in the planning stage of the audit is used to identify and assess the risks of material misstatement and noncompliance. Knowledge gained from the risk assessment procedures and the identification of material misstatement and noncompliance is used to customize our audit plan specific to every entity. And then evidence we gain from further audit procedures is evaluated to determine whether audit risk has been reduced to an acceptably low level and appropriately write the auditor's report and make sure the appropriate opinions are issued. So that's general audit process. Now I'm going to tailor it a little bit down into what we encountered in Luz's BPW audit. So our test of the effectiveness of internal controls did not result in any deviations from the design of your processes. So in comparing the current year results with the prior year, we did note that there was a significant change in grant revenue based on our inquiries of management. A lot of that related to the state of Delaware grant for principal forgiveness on the Donovan Smith Mobile Home Park project. And Kim, correct me if I'm wrong on anything I'm saying here. One of the other items we did was evaluate the impact of the new Government Accounting Standards Board's pronouncements. So this year you guys adopted GASB 102, which is significant risk disclosures. And basically this focused on concentrations. So that was defined as like a lack of diversity and a significant inflow of resources, such as having a few major customers only or 1 or 2 funding sources. The other category that this statement addressed was constraints. And that's a limitation imposed by a government or an external party. Examples of this could include state-imposed debt limits or mandated spending requirements. Our risk assessment of this new standard did determine that there's a significant risk to you guys because your operations are heavily regulated by oversight agencies, so the EPA. In the financial report, we did add an additional disclosure. This will be footnote 17. And it related to constraints imposed by the EPA. So in this case, the authority is subject to environmental regulations related to lead contamination as mandated by the EPA. And as part of complying with that regulation, the authority will incur cost to improve the lead service lines. So you can see more details about that in the financial report. Again, that was footnote 17. Overall, our process of understanding the entity and its environment did not reveal any additional significant risks or unusual activity from prior years. So at this point, I'm going to pause. Does anybody have any questions about the audit process?
Well, one, I guess, you said last year they said 12 systems or something that you audit one of those in depth. Did you do that this year?
Yes, so we would have audited the cash disbursement cycle in depth. So we would have pulled a full transaction sample. I believe in your case that was 40 transactions.
Bob, can you put your microphone on?
Any other questions?
Just a clarification question.
Mm-hmm.
Your the audit doesn't say anything about the quality of our internal controls. It just says if these are your internal controls, we're gonna check and make sure you're following them. How do organizations get any kind of weight or insight into the quality of their internal controls?
So if we see something that is, if we would see an internal controls that wasn't working, or there was a lack of internal controls, then we would describe that. We would issue a finding and say that, let's say, cash disbursements, like we talked, that we did a detailed testing over cash disbursements, and you have an approval process. Let's say 20 of the 40 did not have approvals, or none of them, or maybe you didn't even have approval as one of your internal controls. Then we would say, there's no approval of invoices. We recommend that there is some process implemented because we're not seeing an approval process.
Okay.
So we're not auditing to test internal controls necessarily. We're not your whole process, but if we see something or if something is broken, we let you know.
In other words, if something didn't get complete, you would come and say, these are some holes in your
Correct.
internal controls, and this is why this is happening.
Correct.
And you should, yeah, okay.
Correct.
So you do a generalization more.
Right, and as part of the process that we talked about, we obtain an understanding of your organization. So what's happening, how does it work, how do you process things? So we do get an overall, and then we decide
Only
what
when
our
you
next
see
step.
something do you-
No, we're gonna look at everything.
Okay.
We look at the whole, and then we say, okay, these are the processes, and then we pick certain processes that we do test in detail, cash disbursements, for example. Yes, we do samples, and we're not gonna do 100%, we're not gonna look at every disbursement for the year, that would take us a year to test, so.
What was the number of the processes that you considered, and I take it that you started to look at the testing of more significant processes?
Right.
How do you arrive at a significant process to review? So, what's the total number of processes that you considered?
Mhm.
And how many of those?
I don't know that there's a number of them,
No, it's
it's in general.
Generally based on like major transaction cycles, so cash receipts, cash disbursements, payroll, reporting.
Something similar to last year? We had that
Correct.
assessment
Yep.
last year.
Correct.
Were there any
Last-
changes from
last
last
year's,
year's,
Somebody said
consideration
12.
of the processes to review?
Did we review any different processes?
Yes.
We did not find anything that was significantly different from the prior year that would warrant that.
But was the same process reviewed from last year? Did you change the processes that were considered this year to review?
No, nothing significant changed. So if something significant had changed in your financials that would have popped maybe a different cycle to be significant to you, then we would have considered evaluating a different process.
Different staffing, a whole different process. Say your cash receipts, you're no longer accepting, or you're taking everything at the window now. You're no longer taking any online payments, nobody can mail it in, everybody has to walk in this building. Then obviously there would be a higher risk that the process at the window would be different. So we would have a higher risk, we would deem that a higher risk, and we would look at that area more in depth.
Okay, just want to be clear, so the same processes we did last year because there was no changes that were significant from last year to this year.
Right, and we do look at significant processes across the board.
So how many of those processes did you look at? That you reviewed significantly?
Do we look at disbursements and receipts?
5, 6?
From a
Last
tra-
year
from a
they said there were 12. And I think they
Do we take 12 because of
audited purchase.
whatever would have been in the 2400 series.
That's what
off the top of my head? We didn't take E4.
So the major process we looked at was the cash disbursement cycle. Are you asking every cycle we looked at?
No, just the processes that you reviewed. Bob just said you looked at 12 last year. Unless I better remember that idea, but, so what did you?
It would have been similar to last year. We'll look at your same processes because essentially they cover the organization as a whole. So like a cash receipts, a cash disbursements, those are the two major processes, and payroll are the three major processes that you have. So
There were none others that you looked at as well then?
then we'll look at your IT. So I don't know what the other ones that we had pulled out.
I mean, if you can come back to us with those 12
Sure.
processes that you reviewed,
Mhm.
that'd be helpful.
Any other questions?
Just for clarity, Bob, did you say there's 12 processes they reviewed last year, or there's 12 processes and they reviewed one of them last year?
I remember from the audit discussion last year, this presentation, except it was online, that I thought they said 12 different processes, such as they described. And frankly, my thought was, how much more would it cost us to have another one?
You're getting to the quality of internal controls.
Yeah, and maybe that's for another discussion next April or so, but
But we had the discussion last year, and that was, we had to go out and get like a consultant to look at our separate from the audit.
There was a discussion, because it couldn't be the auditor.
Right,
that
right.
did it.
It would have to be someone else. If they had a consulting arm, that'd be fine. I don't know if you have a consulting group or not, but you could. Or be someone else, a consultant come in and look at our internal controls. And whether or not that's something that we wanna look at. I think that's helpful, and frankly, that'll be for the team as well.
That does feel like something it would be worth maybe reviewing at some frequency, whether it's every 5 years or whatever the number would be. But I think these guys are also arguing that when you have as your business evolves, you may have a big change that may affect your internal controls, and they would evaluate any new,
Yes.
But I think you're right. It seemed like every once in a while, we probably should have someone look at our internal controls, just to make sure they're up to date.
I'm gonna ask the staff, I mean, what do you consider, I mean, what seemed to me to be helpful to you and helpful to us to understand the, so we can get some assurance of those controls as well. I'd like to know what the number is. Just something to know
Yeah, it'll be an engagement, for different firms. I don't know how much it would cost, if it would be something that we can just go out to bid, or if we have to do a formal RFP, go from there.
I think we talked about it last year. I think I'd rather not talk about it this year. I'd rather pursue it currently, at least on a preliminary basis.
I think that's easy.
Is everyone on the same page?
Would that be unusual for firms to have their internal controls sort of relooked at every once in a while, in your experience?
It would depend on what kind of activity you're having. Obviously, if you're expanding operations, you guys have a lot of construction going on, you're growing, that might not be a bad idea.
Have your everything okay? Independently?
Not to my knowledge, not since we've been here.
Just answer the question.
Yeah.
Others, no.
But overall, like we talked about, it's not that they're being just not looked at either. We are looking high level overall at all the processes. So,
Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so then we're gonna move into the financial audit. Now, that's the big version of the report you have.
3A, I know it's small, I didn't realize how small it was till I turned it.
Okay, the first thing you're gonna come to is the audit opinion on the financial statements. This is pages 1 to 3. So this is,
Yeah, that was fine, right?
page 1 might not have a page number on it just because it's the first page of our opinion.
It does, it's on the, it's in the left,
Okay.
up the top.
Okay.
and then it goes down to the bottom once it gets into our information.
Ask them what page number. If you go through here, just please reference the page number.
Yep, pages 1 to 3 is the audit opinion on the financial.
Unfortunately, we don't have your packet, so we can't, we won't be able to cross-reference your packet number.
So is everybody
All
at
right, so is
the audit
everybody
opinion?
at the audit opinion?
So
Okay.
this is where we
So
share
this is where
our
we share our opinion on whether the financial statements are in compliance with financial reporting standards, in this case, generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP.
It also
It also includes the scope of our audit, a description of management's role, and a description of the auditor's role.
We did issue an unmodified opinion.
That's a clean opinion, and it's the best form of opinion you can get. With governments, it's important to note that while one audit is being conducted, we do express multiple opinions as there are different reporting units. So if you look at the first paragraph of page 1, you can see the description of the opinion units, in this case the business type activities of the BPW, and the aggregate remaining fund information, which in your case is your fiduciary activities for the pension.
Do we have
Do we have any questions on the audit opinion?
On page 3, you mentioned, this is what the inquiries of management that you talked to. What was the scope of, was that Kim and Sharon and?
So it would have been
So it would have been Kim, we had some inquiries with Robin, various members of the entity.
Various numbers. Who would it be?
It would be Kim and Robin.
Chris too,
Oh,
because she does pension and stuff, Chris right here.
Any other questions on the audit opinion?
So the next
Okay, so
section
the next section you're going to come to is management's discussion and analysis. This is pages 4 through 9.
So this serves as
an introduction to the financial statements and allows management to provide readers of the financial statements with additional insights into what happened during the year. It includes an analysis of balances, providing the reasons for any significant changes. So we always recommend that the board read MD&A, as management usually explains what went on in the financial statements better than we can. They understand your entity better than anyone. Do you have any questions or concerns on
So
MD&A?
Robin, Sharon, Kim, is that correct?
This was prepared by management.
And then we review it just to make sure it's consistent with the financial statements. Make sure the numbers are the same.
Make sure.
Make sure if they're saying something went up, it actually went up. Those types of things.
That's specifically after this gets done, I'm like, please look at it, make sure I didn't not finger anything.
Please look at it because.
Okay, so then moving on,
So
the
then
next
moving on,
section
the
of your
next section
report
of your report are the
financial
basic financial statements.
These are on
These are on pages 10 through 14.
Just hold on for a second. There's a lot of pages here and a couple of notes. Okay, well, you answered the question, manager report, but actually, I forgot this, the MD&A, you prepared the entire MD&A?
So it's,
Or just the management report?
The managerial report.
Managerial
Yep,
report.
the managerial report
No.
is coming from Robin and Sharon.
yep.
Everything else is me, and then I send it to them to look at. And then they produce the managerial report, they send it to me to look at, and then I send it all back.
And then you would review it for,
Just consistency with the
and that
financial
would
statements
pop
and the
that at you
footnotes.
as being
Right.
Right.
Right. You know, if you guys received a huge grant for something and it showed that grant revenues went up, but it wasn't addressed in there and it just didn't talk about it, we would say, hey, let's just talk about this grant that you received. There's specific things that belong in the MD&A that's according to GASB is what was actually supposed to be in there. So we do make sure all those pieces are touched upon.
Did you have any other questions on that one?
I see all these marks over there, Calvin.
Yeah.
That's scary, isn't it?
You need a colorful pen.
No, no.
Move on to the financial statements.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, the basic financial statements, these are pages 10 through 14.
You mentioned here service there, service, territory. Do we have a defined service territory?
We do and we don't. We serve everything within the city limits. And then outside, it can expand if we have a request for water, sewer, electric, but that has to be done through a CPCN, and it has to be approved through the Public Service Commission. So right now, it is defined, but it could change.
And also annexation.
Yes.
But you also service outside that as well, like for example, Wolf Point. Sure.
They have a CPCN, yes, because they made that request, so our service extended out.
So is there a document that says what our service territory is?
No, because it could change.
I know it can change, but what is it today?
Whatever Sharon wants it to be.
Yeah, that's,
Whatever we have the rights to.
yeah, it is whatever we have the rights to.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be helpful, no, for someone like me to say, hey, this is our service territory.
We have a map.
Oh, give them that.
Give me a map and throw it in AI, and maybe we'll create something, paragraph or something. That would be helpful to know what the service territory.
Okay.
It's here, right, but yet it's not defined. It's just.
It's hard because, you've got Wolf Point over here, so you got a little cutout over here, and then over on New Road, you got a little cutout over here. So it's very difficult to specify in words that a map will give you a good idea. I'll get you that.
I think I mentioned before the electrical demands as well. I guess my concern, we talked about AI a lot, just the fact that you had DMEC here as well. Are there any concerns going forward strategically about our ability to obtain?
When you say AI, I'm thinking you mean like big data centers
Yes.
coming.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, that is a concern. So that is being addressed. So PJM regionally, everybody's looking at that. DMEC's looking at that. We're looking at that. We'll get into some of that with our AMI system that we're looking to get. So that's just kind of help us monitor the load that we're anticipating.
And also there's Senate and House bills being passed for large loads to possibly bring their own generation
Correct.
and it not fall on the electric company.
Since electric is the highest producer of income, right?
It is.
And expenses.
This should be top of mind, obviously it is, but it would be helpful also too, from at least my perspective on this committee, to be abreast of what's going on in the space here, and make sure that strategically we're on top of things.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm talking about that as an ongoing agenda, or
I could probably have someone from DMEC come in and talk about House bills and DMEC pretty much lobbying for us.
I think understanding the space a little more would be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yep.
Is that something that would be appropriate for the board to have the presentation rather than just the finance committee?
So DMEC does do a legislative update and all of the council is invited to that. The finance committee does not get that invite right now, so I might be able to extend that or just have them do a presentation specifically for finance committee.
Okay.
But the board does have access, but we can specifically pinpoint to the board too.
What does that mean, board access to the action?
That there's actual meetings that they're invited to, that they have access to watch the updates, the presentation for the House bills.
I would say the updates help, but you gotta watch several of them to even understand what they're talking about. I mean, it's, if you have somebody come and explain who can speak the English language, that's a big,
Yep.
big boost.
If you're hearing, we need help here.
I mean, a question would be, I'm just thinking out loud with you, Calvin, we're the finance committee. Obviously, there's changes we need to figure into our financial forecasting.
Great, absolutely.
But we're not running the organization, and I guess you guys use, I don't know your world that much, I guess you guys use DMEC, at least in the electric area, to really help you guys understand policy changes and things that are meaningful. The question I guess I would have is, where do we step from, where does the finance committee stop, and, you know, the team and DMAC and their consultants sort of begin? It sounds like you're already doing stuff with them, and that's your sort of advisor on this stuff, and they're advocating for you and things like that. I assume if DMEC is presenting, the public can sit in as if they were interested, or they're open meetings and.
That would be my recommendation. I would prefer that DMEC come and present to the board, and then as, if any of the finance committee members wanted to watch, they could sit in the audience, join online, or always watch it later because we record them all. And then that way you could also get the information as well.
Right. Not have a special thing just for the
Correct.
finance committee. Yeah.
I think it's when you get a basic understanding, it sounds like Bob had participated in some of these things and was walking away, I don't want the words in your mouth, but you're walking away with needing more information than what you've seen today. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So, and you know, we produce forecasts for in the finance committee. So understanding the forecast means understanding the environment, understanding. So I think we do need to understand what's going on in this space. Be able to say, okay, let's put together a meaningful forecast, you know, with our eyes wide open here and have as much knowledge as possible in this space.
Okay, can we continue with the audit?
Okay, so financial
We're gonna
statements.
start with the
We're gonna start with the statement of net
which
position, which should be page 10.
So
We're on page 11.
So a good,
Okay, so I'm sorry.
Okay, so a good indication of
financial health
is the balance
of your
unrestricted net
position.
At the end of fiscal year 26,
the BPW had about 15 million in unrestricted net position, which is an increase from the prior year.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
Your biggest
asset is going to be the investment in capital assets of 70.9 million, and this includes both the depreciable and non-depreciable components. That balance did increase from the prior year, and we can review that more in the footnotes.
Your next statement is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position.
That should be the very next page.
Operating income was
relatively consistent between the 2 years, but you can see there was a large increase in non-operating revenues, primarily due to the increase in grants we talked about earlier with the principal forgiveness.
Always a good sign
was a positive change in net position.
Your next statement
is the statement of cash flows, and these are just going to go right in order. So you are required to follow GASB standard for cash flows, which can be a little different than how we traditionally think of these categories. Cash equivalents are basically any items that are readily convertible to cash, known amounts of cash, and they mature within 3 months or less from the date of acquisition. There was an increase of cash from the prior year.
And then your
remaining statements relate to the pension trust fund. These are your fiduciary statements.
They're
considered fiduciary as the resources are restricted for the benefit of others.
I'm gonna pause.
Are there any questions on the financial statements themselves?
I was just gonna point out on page 12 for that increase of total cash in the middle of the page. You see that 3.5 million to 11.2, that is the reallocation of that money market account. And that is is part of the story in the MD&A as well.
Richard, a question for you. The pension fund is in here. We don't really talk about or discuss this in the context of the Finance Committee. Is this something that should be, or is this sort of a separate entity?
Isn't the pension something that is historical? It's taking care of a past perk
Yeah, so the,
Well,
that isn't ongoing?
it could be. Sometimes pension funds, for example, can develop a gap between the funds and the liabilities, and sometimes those things can become meaningful. Sometimes this stuff doesn't fall underneath the typical Finance Committee. It might be an HR, function or something. I'm just raising the question. Well, we just haven't talked about a pension
So-
plan at all within the Finance Committee.
If I could jump in, I believe your plan is a little different than some other governmental entities in that it's frozen.
Okay.
So that will drastically change those wild
Yeah,
swings you
okay.
see. And if you go back to your statement of net position on page 10, you can see up in your non-current assets, you currently have a pension asset.
It's about, not quite halfway down. It says net pension asset, $159,732.
So you guys are currently not carrying a pension liability. You do have a pension asset as of the end of fiscal year.
We also funded that pension this year too,
Well, that would have contributed to that pension asset. It has sufficient funds to meet the
Getting
liability.
back to Mike's question though, I mean, there is some investment to be made here, and who controls these investments? It's not anything that we have any sight into.
no, so it's managed by a third party. And then in the actuarial, we're told to be fully funded, you need this much more money. Or if we are fully funded, don't give us any money, but that's never been that. But, and then we generally make a one-time payment in October. And it's generally been between $70,000 to $100,000, and that is accounted for in the budget.
So I guess the question is, do we need to look under the hood here, so to speak, and look at what they're investing in? We won't have any input as a finance committee into those investments, or at least be aware of it. That's the first question. Second question is, can we kind of get rid of this? Can we everyone?
Not until all of them pass away and their spouses pass away.
Is there a possibility?
Other than that, we
A payout option, I don't,
But a lot of work here for just a few people.
I think there are organizations that will take the liability off, and you sort of it's like an insurance company. It's been a long time since I worked in this space, but that they would take that liability off, and it's no longer an obligation of the organization itself. You give them the assets, you give them the liabilities, you probably have to give them some overall payment, and then they basically own that pension.
Well, I guess it's one thing.
But until you do that, you're stuck is the wrong word. You have an obligation to make good on these, and you're gonna, it's gonna have to be something to be watched. And my only question is, who should be watching it?
And if in the unloading process, do the pensioners get to say, yes, this is okay, or not?
I think that's an organizational decision, but this is out of my realm. It's probably out of your realm too. Probably time for the lawyer.
Tell you to talk to bring the lawyers in.
But there are
And
people
just
that do
something
that.
to
There
think
are
about
firms that
too.
do that.
What I'm asking is that, is there consent required for the pensioners in order to move this? I guess the other question is, again, can we just do a payout? I mean, does someone want, $1,000 a month, or like $50,000 all at once? Or $100,000 all at once, or whatever the number is?
We can look into it.
yeah.
This might be one of those things where you offer it out and 30% of them take it and 70% don't, or, it's an individual. I don't know that you can force it on them, but.
Yeah, you can.
But we should probably, maybe maybe we should learn a little bit more about what the options are. This would be not doing something to try to hurt the pensioners, so I want to be very clear about that. It's just that there's different options to make good on the liability that might be better for all involved. So we should just educate ourselves. Yeah, just educate ourselves.
I'm sure there are people who would love to have that lump sum. Go on with it.
Back to you.
Okay, so
Okay,
the next
so
section of
the
your
next
financial
section of your
report
financial
are the
report
notes to
are the
financial
notes to the financial
statements.
statements.
These are on
These are on pages
15
15 through 32.
So
this provides a summary of your significant accounting policies used in the preparation of the financial statements, as well as more detailed information about specific accounts or activity.
So just
To highlight a few of them, I'm going to call your attention to footnote 8 on page 22. This is a detailed breakout of your capital assets. So the biggest change was construction in progress on a wide variety of capital improvement projects. So as we had mentioned multiple times, you guys are kind of expanding and you're developing those lines and systems and infrastructure that you have. The next note I would bring to your attention is footnote 9 on page 23.
And
this details out your long-term debt activity. So you are continuing to draw down on the state revolving fund loans, but the overall change was offset by the principal forgiveness in the current period. So it doesn't look like your debt changed that much, but you did draw down some debt. It's just the principal forgiveness kind of offset the total.
First comment changed. It's not very true.
That was on page 24?
23.
At the bottom. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, yeah. I see it.
On the Donovan Smith, wasn't it Alford? That must be Alford, isn't it? We still have some stuff we're carrying, right? It's not Alford,
So
at this point.
If
you continue on to page 25, you can see a detailed breakdown of the infrastructure. Okay.
That's what I'm asking. I don't think it's all forgiven, though. We still have a drawdown of $3 million. I'm reading this right.
I think, are you looking at the balance of 2025? All the way to the right, and then 2026 is 0.
Yep, so this is the balance for 2025, and then that's 0. Yep,
Full hash mark.
yeah.
That represents the forgiveness.
Yep.
Yep.
And then also new this year is footnote 18 on page 32.
Estimated useful life. Building 50 years, vehicles 50 years, furniture equipment 50 years. Where's that come from?
So these
are based on historical trends and averages.
I don't think we've ever had a vehicle for 50 years.
I was going to say.
I think we have, I want to say it's maybe the backhoe or a dump truck that we've done for like 20 years, but
we never use these. We never even come close to using these numbers.
the infrastructure,
Well, yeah.
the top end.
But other than building
Yeah.
vehicles,
But the rest of these,
how do we determine its useful life and deposition?
previous assets and how long they lasted, their warranties, and just general knowledge from the field. So I do rely on electric and water department.
You mean, tell me there's some stuff out there for 50 years.
For what? For the infrastructure, absolutely.
No, for the building and vehicles.
For the buildings, we absolutely have buildings that are older than 50 years.
And sometimes included in the vehicles might be a bucket for a truck or something like that, which may not necessarily,
Pieces and parts.
that may not actually be a vehicle with an engine in it. It may be something that you can add on that you would use for 50 years.
So we're still depreciating these things.
Right.
So we're still depreciating these things then, with that bucket truck.
Well, if we don't own it, then we write it off.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
Understand how that works. It would be an asset that we're depreciating it to be its 49th year.
Could be.
Wow.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
There's a lot.
Just on that for a second though, if there's things that we're sort of not realistically depreciating, but we're just throwing a depreciating number on there, that will ultimately affect our income statement, which may ultimately affect when we have a discussion about pricing of services. You're going to want to have a basic idea of how costly it is to use stuff up. And I'm going to go to the extreme. If you depreciate something over 1,000 years, it basically has almost no consequence to pricing. So it might be something at some point we should think about, tightening a little bit, yeah. I mean, some things clearly are going to be 50 or maybe even longer, but certainly things like, a Chevy truck is not going to last 50 years on there.
Yeah, we don't put 50 years on
Yeah, I would think.
those field trucks.
Maybe it'd be helpful to understand what that number looks like that's beyond reasonable. Like, in the 30 to 50 year category, or 20 to 50 year category, that's still being depreciated, what that number looks like. Is it really
I
small?
actually might have that information, because for the cost of service study, I had to provide asset listings and stuff, so I might actually have that.
I mean, it's a small number, that's okay.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
huge
yeah.
number that it might have it.
GASB probably gives you a lot of leeway, doesn't it? It's up to the firm on the organization how.
It is a management.
Yeah. Okay.
You can pull down estimates based on the IRS and an IRS reg out that will say, a vehicle could be between this year and this many years, is it realistic to have buildings at 50 years? Yes, it is. So,
One thing to consider is governments tend to keep their assets longer than traditional entities.
Like microphones and things like that.
Yeah, so there are depreciation numbers. I mean, these are huge. I mean, in the private sector, I've never seen something like this. That's huge. You're saying that there are different standards between government and private sector.
Think of
a multi-million-dollar corporation with vehicles.
They're
Probably going to flip them a lot quicker than someone who's trying to conserve taxpayer resources. So there are different standards between the government, industry, and private sector.
Accounting standards.
in the private sector, there's also different types of depreciation. Here, you're gonna just use a plain old straight line depreciation, where in the private sector, you're gonna do section 179, you're gonna depreciate something faster. As soon as you drive that brand new truck off the lot,
Yeah.
it's half of the value's gone, right? Well, in the government, that's not true.
Or IT stuff, usually it's like 3 years, right? Because after a year, it's sold, right? Getting the
Which I think it is 3 to 5 years for that section.
Okay, take care.
Or furniture and equipment, it might take about 15 years or 10 years, but
Right.
in a year, it's like 50 years.
And just because it's in the
And just because it's in the range doesn't necessarily mean it's at the highest end of that range. So,
I think it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so then,
Going back to footnote 18 on page 32.
So this
describes the new agreement with Sussex County for the decommissioning of the authority's wastewater treatment plant. So that's a big new agreement that's going to have an impact on you guys. We felt it was significant enough to add some more detail to it in the footnotes.
So before we
Move on, does anybody else have any questions on the footnotes?
Okay, so the next
So the next
Do you dream of these things at night?
I deal with them every day.
I deal with them every day. This is kind of my life.
Okay, the The next section of
The
your
next
report
section
is
of
the
your report
required
is the required supplementary.
Are you good, Calvin?
Yeah, but that's just, oh, I mentioned. So we're gonna continue with the old wastewater treatment for the next 5 to 7 years?
Yeah,
And we're
could
gonna,
be longer, but yes,
we're gonna keep that up and running and
correct.
expense-wise, it's all in our system.
Yep.
I get a focus on that, all those expenses, that we can continue.
And even when that's done, we have to maintain and operate the collection system.
Correct, Rob's correct. Yep, so we are gonna maintain all of the transmission lines, the pump stations, except for two. Our major pump stations are Pump Station 4, right there at the bridge, and then Pump Station 8 down by the wastewater treatment plant. And to your point about the cost of maintaining, we are already trying to move forward with them doing the upgrades earlier than the actual treatment transition, just so we don't have to keep putting money out to keep the maintain. So we're aware of that, and we're keeping an eye on that. Yep.
And line of, what's the purpose of line of credit that's available? I have a note here. Board has a $3 million line of credit. Is that just for?
Emergencies.
Yep. Additional insurance.
I saw insurance here. Is that further? Did you talk about insurance yet?
So that would not be something we detail in regards to like your policies and.
We should talk about insurance, but we'll do that later. Thought I saw something about insurance. Okay.
So moving on the next
So moving on, the next section is your required
supplementary
supplementary information. This is pages 34 through 36.
I did not bring my glasses.
Unfortunately, we're required to show 10 years of information. So, and this doesn't even have 10 years of information. So next year there will be one more column. And we have tried all our might, and I don't know a better way to present it. So I apologize for the smallness.
About diagonal.
So
I don't know, like 18 pages. Yeah. Yes. So it's basically it's historical pension information. So you can see the comparison through the years of that pension information.
The next section
the
of your
next
report
section
is
of your report is other supplementary information. This is pages 38 through 43.
So
OSI is information that governments voluntarily supply to supplement or expand upon information in the basic financial statements. So in the authority's case, this includes the schedules of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position by department, and the schedule of capital assets by department. Does anyone have any questions on either the RSI or the OSI?
Is this in line with what we look at in our models?
I didn't actually break down to this. I just did a quick peek at the cash flows, and we're $70,000 off of, $70,000 off of 11 million. So
But this is
it
consistent
seems like,
with the income
yeah.
and revenue and
Yep.
the allocation.
Yeah. So we set up the model like this. Yep.
So all of the services are making money.
This year.
Well said.
The final section of your report is the government auditing standards report. This is on pages 44 through 45.
This is the report
on internal control over financial reporting and compliance.
And
again, we issued an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. There were no issues or deficiencies.
Yeah, I can't even underline. So does anybody have
any final questions on the financial statements themselves?
It was very helpful. Thank you.
Then moving on, we're going to move to the next report. This is the smaller one. This is your single audit report.
It's, yep, 3B.
So a single audit is required when a non-federal entity expends over $1 million in federal grant funds. So if we jump to page 6, you will see a copy of the schedule of expenditures of federal awards.
Give everybody a chance
Give everybody a chance to flip there, page 6.
Not as bad as the pension, but still a little tiny.
So this is
a listing of the different federal programs with activity during the year and the amounts expended. This schedule was prepared by management.
So you can see the
program selected for testing this year was the capitalization grants for drinking water state revolving fund loans. That's assistance listing number 66468.
So as part of the single audit,
we reviewed a combination of internal controls and compliance with grant rules. For the compliance requirements identified as applicable to audit by the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, Single Audit Supplement.
And if you jump to
page 3 now, we're going to go a little backwards. This provides the opinion for each major federal program as required by the Uniform Guidance, which are the federal regulations for the single audit. Again, this was an unmodified opinion, and there were no findings for either financial reporting or compliance. Does anybody have any questions with the single audit?
Is there, some of our money comes from the state? Is there essentially a similar thing that schedule that we ought to be looking at for the state? Sorry, Kim.
This is what's required.
Understood, I'm just
For
asking.
federal, but, I mean, through our GLs, we know how much money we're getting in.
So through your general audit too, those funds are part of the revenue that you receive, so they are covered overall.
They're just not mandatory reporting.
Yeah, it's not actually coming from the federal level. So it doesn't.
And they'll tell us specific things that we need to look at with each grant. There's different requirements.
Does this get supplied to the federal government?
It does.
Okay.
does.
So they require
Actually,
that we
both
get
of
it,
these.
that we get it audited, okay.
Yep, so they're gonna require that you get it, and then both statements together get submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, and, pardon me?
It does.
It does, yep.
Don't worry, they probably don't read it.
They get it.
So if we have a bunch of different grants, I apologize, you probably said this, but if we have a bunch of different federal grants, you guys will selectively do a couple of them, or you would check every one to make sure we're in compliance?
So there is set rules defined by the Uniform Guidance of how to pick programs. Your programs based on dollar amount are going to be split into what are considered type A programs. Those are your big dollar threshold ones. And then type B programs are your smaller programs. And then based on some various different risk rules, you know, how long it's been audited, what its risk factors are, whether any findings or prior issues, we'll go through and select programs.
Okay, so you're not doing a comprehensive, you're kind of got a couple you selected here, they're all within federal guidelines, and if they think you should be doing more or whatever, when they receive this, they would ask you to do more.
So if you flip back to page 6.
As I recall, you audit like 70% of the grant monies?
Well, in this case, probably because it's such a
So if you flip over to page 7, note 3, you'll see it looks like we covered 72.4% of your total federal awards.
So that's the total dollars, but then when you look at page 6, it actually shows you your different programs. So, for example, the Emerging Contaminants Grant Program, you expended $25,000. So, is it where do you get the biggest bang for your buck? Not looking at something that's $25,000, you're going to look at something that's $3.8 million to get that 72% coverage. And that's how their guidance is to us.
So are these on page 6, are these the total, this was reported by Nicole, so these are the total grants that we have? And of this, how many, which one did you look at?
So it has the asterisk
So it has the asterisk, it's the very first one, 66468. So all of, and underneath the federal expenditures column,
That's major program.
You have to take your glasses off.
so all of the, if we combine it into there, so there's 5 lines, so 5 different grants were awarded underneath that one funding stream.
Okay, so, right, got it. So
The very top one, no expenditures, but they owed you some money under that one, and then there's 2.
So those five grants under the EPA? Is that right?
That's and under that 66468, and then under the EPA also is the 66458, which is underneath
So
it.
that's the sewer. So the top 5 are the drinking water, and the 2 underneath that are the sewer.
So you can kind of see the way this works is based on the indents. So you have total EPA up here.
Right.
And then there's a variety of different grants on that first indent that are falling from that agency, but they all have different numbers
Right.
over here.
But there's only one asterisk in the 3.6.
There was only one
There was
major
only
federal
one
program.
major federal program this year.
So,
The 5 different grants, but they're all under the same guidance.
so 72. You get the 72%.
So it should be.
So it should be the 3 point, okay.
The only other large grant that's really on here is that, the COVID money. That was that 950,000.
Was there any change in direction on how the audit would be done this year versus years past?
There was a slight change.
There was a slight change, so the uniform guidance did do a revision, and they changed the single audit threshold overall and the type A threshold. It used to be 750,000. They did raise that up to $1 million.
When you did this review and discussion with management, did you sense that they were applying the same processes to everyone?
Yes.
You'd walk
Yes.
through this.
Yeah.
Any other questions
Any
on the
other
single
questions
audit?
on the single audit?
Does
Does anybody have any other questions just overall?
Overall, could you just explain how the interaction between Kim and company and you all happens? You know, fiscal year ends and
So kind of to start things off, we'll send over what's known as a PBC list, a provided by client listing, and it's items that we anticipate needing to complete the audit. And then we have a secure file sharing network that Kim will upload those documents to. So once we get you guys are closed and we get your trial balances, we kind of take a look at them. You know, obviously we're going to do that analytical procedure of comparing them to the prior year, looking for any unusual activity, anything new that spikes out, anything unusual from what we know of the industry that we want to dive into. And at that point, we can ask for some additional information, maybe something new popped up that we want to do some additional procedures. And then basically we pull some.
where, if our fiscal year ends or begins April 1st, where are we on the calendar now?
So
You're
they
coming
send-
back to,
They send the list the day after the April board meeting is when we start collecting all the data, because that's when I present. That's when the year-end cutoff is for them to start getting all of their information. So, yeah, so generally 20th to 25th of April is when they send out the list, and I start giving them all the paperwork. Uh-huh.
Kim is so excited, she's almost done with the audit.
and then you look at it for, I don't know, how
Anything unusual, we design our audit procedures, we'll send Kim back some samples of specific transactions we want support for, and then she'll upload them. There's a lot of back and forth. Liz has some Teams calls with her to review some information. She shares a screen.
Phone calls, emails.
I was gonna say, I think Kim was probably on the phone or video chat at least twice a week, if not 3-4 times a week.
Yeah, from April to August, I spend a lot of time on audit.
I guess the important question is Kim as testy with you as she is with everybody else around?
She is wonderful. Yes, we thank her for all the assistance and all the hard work she does. She does a very good job.
Good job, Kim.
And her department, I will say.
Can you talk about the audit engagement generally? I'm familiar with our process that typically there's in the private sector, there's the lead auditor, or just the partner, changes every 3 years or so, the assigned principal.
So sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. We're kind of in a transition anyways, so Kayla has been promoted up through, so we've kind of have flipped roles a little, where she's obviously taking the lead on this, and I'm taking more of a concurring outside eyes role. So we do that. And then oftentimes, so when we do an audit, there's always, the audit's done itself, and then there's an internal, but a different person is the concurring partner or principal that actually reviews it, that doesn't really have their hands on it at all, so they're taking a fresh look at it. So
How large is this firm?
there's 4 partners and 5 principals? 5 principals? 5 principals. So overall total, there's about 60 people.
And so there's a assigned partner to oversee your work here?
Correct.
Do you guys have a specialty in governmental organizations or utilities or?
So we're a niche firm. We only do governments, nonprofits. So.
Do you work specifically with principal homes opposed to your principals and main person?
The partner's usually the main person.
Deal with the partner.
So, Philadelphia Water Department is one of, actually, both a client of Kayla and I. We do consulting work.
Okay.
Or, authorities are big things. Also, Lehigh Water Authority. Sewer Authority. Lehigh Sewer Authority. Yeah, another partner does that one, but another huge one that we do.
So you reassign partners every so many years then?
We can if the board wants us to do that. Sometimes the board likes us to have the same partners, because then you're not teaching new people new things.
Yeah, but there's obviously other issues associated with having the same.
And that's fine. If you'd like us to rotate, we can do that.
Okay, how long have you been engaged with DPW?
We're talking, I don't know that for certain. I think maybe 2018? And at that time, a different partner was assigned to this engagement. Pat Kirkwood. He was assigned to this engagement.
Do you do many Delaware organizations, or they mostly PA?
We have a few cities in Delaware. So. Milford, Frankfurt.
The actual city itself, not the utility. Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple DMAC members that have also used ZNA. After using them for a while, they change. And then,
Okay.
to have fresh eyes.
Did you say you did governmentals and nonprofits, or governmental? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So the one thing unique to us is we don't have a private sector, corporate sector. All of our people are spending their time, 100% of their time in government.
Okay.
You're not teaching folks, they all come with that background of general
Okay.
Yeah, you said it's just 60 employees, 4 partners, and
5 principals. I can't tell you off the top of my head the breakdown of the rest.
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
thank you.
taking the time and effort, and the communication has been very successful.
Again, if you guys ever have questions, feel free to reach out to us. Kim has our email, and we can, talk offline if you'd like to.
Thank you very much for being clear and concise so that I didn't have to spend time looking to see what your conclusion was, because in many audits I've done, I've got to go through it 1,000 times just to find, did we, what didn't we? So I looked through this one and you had it right there. I want to thank you for that.
So in other words, you did.
So in other words, you did. So again, Kim, thank you for everything. We appreciate your time. And
Well,
keeping
we need you because Kim's smarter than all the rest of us. And
Hopefully you stay and enjoy some tax-free shopping later.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
So long, go ahead.
4 hours plus. What was that, 4.5 hours?
3 hours.
I live in Kenneth Square, which is a little south. That's about 2 hours in PA. Longwood Gardens area, if you ever been there. Oh, do you? I don't want to know. We're Unionville, so we're right outside of Kenneth. We're actually not in town proper. We're, yeah.
We do a lot of school districts.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you. See you next year.
So the next topic
Richard,
is,
before we move on, do we want to see if we have a recommendation to recommend this to the board to approve?
why would we not?
I just want to make sure before we move on. Yeah.
Do I have
Yes,
a-
please.
I have a motion on recommending the approval of the audit as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous.
Should I abstain from that?
Now, can we go
Am I
to,
biased here?
What did that presentation look like for the board? Well, you have two of the 5 board members here, but what did they, how did?
So their presentation used to be the board presentation. So now coming in, it'll be that the draft audit has been presented to the finance committee. Their recommendation is for the acceptance and approval. And then if they have any questions, and they don't have to approve until next month, so it can be a month for if they have questions or anything.
Right, but three of the 5 will not have the benefit of this kind of discussion, of actually.
Well, Barbara's here.
Barbara's here.
Bob and Cleo.
So 3 of the 5 actually did have a discussion. Well, what about the other 2? How do they get informed? And
the other 2 are engineers.
So they will have, it is recorded, so they will have the option to go back and watch the presentation if they choose. We could also provide them the minutes if they want, or they could just go off the basis of the finance committee's recommendation in the summary that Richard's going to give at the meeting.
I think the minutes will be helpful. Give them the minutes too. I think that'll be absolutely wonderful.
Well, our board meeting is in 2 days.
2 days.
So I don't think that they're going to be ready.
So, but they don't need to approve it until the September.
Yes.
That is our deadline
Yes.
for government. So
I just want, I just think that they need to get all board members really informed before they make a kind of decision like this. And I think the minutes would be perfect. I mean, typically, how you hope that any committee, the board gets all the minutes in. But
Yeah. So anytime you guys approve minutes, then they have to go to the board to be officially approved. Yep.
And that is historically how it's always been, is that it's presented in August and it's, the ball's in their court if they want another month of questions, whatever, if they want to approve it then. All right, this investment policy. So we tried to work smarter, not harder, using AI. It repeated a lot of stuff. It put in on some unnecessary stuff. By the time I was on the second page of taking out stuff or moving it and quoting where it's already put, I was over it. So I went back to what we originally wrote and took a couple of things from that AI, which it included the, the Delaware Cash Management Policy Board to be used as a reference for best practices. So that's the guidance for the state money, and the summary table. So I did take that from the AI and put it back in here. But to walk through, for the purpose, the red line is kind of incredibly hard to read. So I just included that just for historical, if you wanted to look at it.
Yeah.
But if we could look at the clean version, which is 4A. For the purpose, there was a suggestion of changing the commas to semicolons for our role or our objectives. So a semicolon on the second line between management and fund, a semicolon on the third line between purposes and permissible, and a semicolon between parameters and on the third line.
And on the first line after objectives.
Okay. So that's the only feedback I got on section 1. Is there anything else from section 1? All right, going into section 2, we're talking about the standard of care.
Can I ask a question? I see that we've moved the definitions from the front to the back, and that drives me crazy, because I would like to know what I'm reading before I read it.
So that
That
was,
drove me crazy, so I suggested moving
yeah,
to the.
for someone financially minded reading this, I think it reads easier, and then
Okay.
the stuff that's capitalized, that you know that you can come back
That's fine.
into the appendix.
But
That
let
is
me-
my opinion.
But let me
That
ask
doesn't mean-
Sharon, just to be, so are you, like, for example, if we say BPW, but we don't define at least what the letters mean?
No, I'm
You wanna see
saying-
the definition.
The definitions.
Yeah.
In typical big documents, this
Yeah.
is not real big, but usually the definitions come before any really substance is discussed.
If you read statutes or regulations, all the definitions come up first thing.
Yeah.
1.1 definitions.
I'm
Which
sure
that
that's,
can-
I'm sure
that
it's the
can easily
case,
be
I'm not,
moved, but-
I have not seen that, but I'm sure it's the case.
So it's a question of
It's preference.
positioning, not of whether we
Yeah,
have.
no, I
that.
like the definitions, they all look great, I prefer them up front, that's all.
Yeah, again. I mean, typically, when you're reading law regulation, they're up front because what follows, now you know what it means.
Yeah. Well, especially in this case, because it's not a large document, it doesn't have a table of contents to see that, hey, you gotta go to the back to find the definitions, you know what I mean? But, I'm sorry.
Which that can easily be moved back
It's fine
into
in the
section
back,
2.
it doesn't bother me, I know they're there. I was just thinking ease for other people.
I'm happy whatever makes you happy.
Kim,
Is
what-
there a consensus on definitions being appendix or a section?
Me either.
Fluidity, out of reference time,
In section,
significant principle, quite
in the definitions,
Okay.
in the back of the page.
It's kind of done that in the definition, but not in the front. One thing I would say, Kim, we talked about this before, but I think when you first mention an acronym, you should actually have the full name out
Yep.
before you. And then,
Yeah, you have to.
yeah.
Yep.
And then you roll with
It's a standard.
Yep.
You know, I couldn't find it in here, the definition of advisory committee. Who was the advisory committee?
It would be the finance committee.
Should we say?
Where does it say advisory?
On policy review 8, the board for the advisory committee.
It should be finance
Yep.
committee.
Yep.
we talked about last time that there's supposed to be some threshold, dollar threshold.
So I did change that for any movement of money from one investment to the other to have dual approval.
That's exactly what.
Because we originally said 500,000 because that's what Fulton did automatically whenever he tried to move money. But after reading it, really any movement of money, I think, should be signed off by someone behind them. So I just did all transactions.
That's the existing internal control.
Our existing just says that it can be internally changed. It doesn't have a procedure of who does it and if there's multiple people.
Okay, so are you saying you have a new procedure in place?
There will be once this
yeah.
is approved.
Yes, this first. Okay, so to section 2, I have the spell out GASB first. Yeah, have to spell out all these first.
Yes, all those.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's just normal. That's okay. Or if you had the definitions up front, then you.
You know, maybe that's why they weren't spelled out, is because no definitions first.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. For 2B, number 2, there was a suggestion that liquidity should say maintenance of sufficient liquidity to meet current and forecasted operational and capital obligations.
To me, what was that?
Current and forecasted.
What do you read from?
Number 2.
2B2.
I'm trying to, I don't want to overthink that, but our forecasted capital needs are many, many millions of dollars, and we wouldn't sit on that much liquidity because they're well into the future. So then it feels like you're sort of trying to define that.
So we do have like the 2-year capital, the short-term reserve spelled out of that being a liquid asset.
I mean, I guess the question to this committee would be, does that need to be spelled out so lawyerly that, we've got, it's exactly 2 years, it's capital, but that one little tiny, that's a concept there. I'm comfortable with that as it's written.
Yeah.
But if we want to really define this thing could become a paragraph pretty quickly on, liquidity needs.
I don't think you have to go to that extent.
I don't either. But that's we got a committee, so we should
So
all
yay or
weigh in.
nay of current and forecasted before operational and capital obligations?
I'm gonna leave it like it is.
Nay.
Yeah, I would leave it like it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Great. Section 3, B1, where it says consistent with section 5, that should be 4. That did not get changed after the definitions got taken out.
How about administrative team here?
Administrative and then finance committee. Both of them are listed there, 1 and 2. And the one that you pointed out was advisory. Yep.
And then my next notes are on page 2. Letter C. It reads, transfers initiated by the administrative team shall require dual authorization by 2 authorized members, neither of whom may be the sole initiator of the transaction. It was suggested to take out by 2 authorized members, that it's implied that it's from the administrative team. And that with those extra words, it sounds like you can give authorization outside of the admin team.
So how are you going to read it?
Transfers initiated by the administrative team shall require dual authorization, neither of whom may be sole initiator of the transaction.
Gotcha. Just take it.
It doesn't matter to me one way or another.
Okay. And then my next note is section 4B, where it starts the operating reserve. This is on page 2. where it starts the operating reserve, to start numbering. The operating reserve would be number 1, the capital reserve would be number 2, and then on page 3, the deposit reserve would be number 3, to add those numbers.
I'm good with that.
Should we replace an alpha with a numeric?
No,
No, there is nothing there.
yeah, it should be, so it's got a B,
That
but
makes
then
sense, Kim,
it should be
to me.
indented in and be 1.
B1.
Yep. 2, and then 3.
And then C for special purpose funds, the line second to the bottom where it says section 3B, that should be section 2B. And then when I took out the definitions, it corrected some of the numbers, but not all of them. We skipped over 5. So reporting and compliance is section 5, not 6.
Okay.
Reporting and compliance.
So anyway, that's so smart.
Page 3.
On page 3, number 6 should actually be number 5. It should just be B.
And then it goes number 7, now we're 6.
And,
On number 5, then, you want to be consistent and make them instead of 1, 2, 3, make them A, B, and C, just like the.
Yep.
yes, that was also, it initially did numbers because we're talking about everything that needs to be there. But then we were talking about changing it A, B, C, D, E to be consistent, which I think we should, yep.
So in doing the C would be the capital reserve.
So you'll clean up the formatting, but
Yes.
anything more substantive?
Oh, what page are you?
Where you are, sorry. I'm on 4.
No, we're on 3.
Yeah, but I was responding to choose.
No, she's on 3 too.
Yeah.
Then I'm on.
You're ahead of us, girl.
First.
So, section now 5, 1 through 5 should be A through E.
Yep, sounds good.
Capital?
Yes.
These are all formatted.
Yep, yep.
And then, on page 4, that paragraph,
What's that?
that first paragraph, talks about the reports. I was suggesting to get rid of the first introduction on page 3, under section now 5, and putting that paragraph that's at the end of section 5 as the beginning.
The reports.
Yep, and started out with quarterly reports shall be prepared by the administrative team in coordination with the external, et cetera, et cetera.
Who's the external investment advisor?
That would be like the UBS, if we have, for reserves.
Can you repeat that again?
External investment advisor. That's the fund.
This one.
It is.
So the only thing on 3 was Roman 5 and then the A, B, C, D, E.
And then I'm suggesting to get rid of that first paragraph where it says management shall supply quarterly reports. Take that all out. And then on page 4, have it read, quarterly reports shall be prepared by the administrative team in coordination with the external investor advisor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then adding the last sentence of each quarterly report shall include,
And then,
and then A through E.
Okay.
so she wants to take this little guy here and put it at the end of that other
Nope,
paragraph.
nope, I want to take that little guy out.
This little
Okay.
guy here?
Yep.
Yep. So, and stop right there. Yep. And then add this at the end of the other one.
And then I'm just adding the word quarterly at the beginning of page 4.
And then the follows, okay, that's a,
Yep.
that's a precursor.
Yep, that will be the precursor to the list.
Oh, on page
Page
3,
4.
on 3, there was a period at the end of E.
Oh, we need a period.
Oh, yep. I had that marked too, but I didn't highlight it.
You know, I still think definitions should go up front, that way you don't have to redo anything here, otherwise it's repetitive, right? If you're gonna spell everything out, then you're gonna.
Anything else on,
So then internal controls now becomes BI, number 6.
Yep.
That's all I had for that section. Policy review becomes 7, VII.
Well, yeah, and the advisory committee is.
Finance.
Advisory committee becomes finance committee. And there was also a suggestion if we should include the resolution number of what this gets passed under. So if they need to look back, they can look at the resolution. How do we
Did
feel about
did
that?
we-
Say that again?
Typically, when we do a policy, because this policy is going to be inserted into the compilation of policies, underneath it, it'll have just the resolution. It'll document that like in a footnote.
Perfect. So already be noted.
Yep.
On page 4, the very bottom, is as applicable still needed?
So, implementation becomes number 8, VII, and then that last sentence will read, such procedures shall be consistent with this policy and shall be made available to the finance committee and as applicable to external investment advisor, and we get rid of that as applicable at the end.
But you put it in the middle.
Yes, because I want it to only apply to external investment advisor as applicable. The finance committee is always.
So available to the finance committee as applicable?
No, to the finance committee and as applicable
And
to the external investment advisor. Period.
Well, it's concise.
How much of this is different than what we're doing now?
The authorizations will be different. Not having a set table for investments, it lists in here for the asset allocation that it's board approved. So at quarterly reviews, the board can say, I actually don't like this, let's move it all to treasury and don't have any inequity.
also, this is compared to the existing policy, investment policy of 2019.
Yes.
Another big thing on that policy is that everybody and his brother is named to do something or other. The board, the general manager, which is just a complete mess.
And then we also defined the funds and what they should be invested in.
I think Bob's question is an important one, and I think, Bob, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I said something smart, go with it.
No, it's good. I think what you're asking, this is more than just a cleanup and rewrite. There's actually operational changes in here that will affect the relationships between this organization, Fulton, and UBS. So this is more than just, it's more concise. We took out some duplicates and things like that. It's not a wordsmith. This is actually a functionally different document. First and foremost, all the operating reserves in this document could be pulled out of UBS, and it's a lot of money. And all the short-term capital reserves could be pulled out of UBS, which is a decent amount of money. The long-term reserves could be pulled out as well, but they may stay at UBS with the language in this. But that's a different discussion. But there is operational differences in this document relative to what we're doing. On top of that, if you actually read the old one, it was horribly written, very difficult to understand what was going on. This is whoever said it, it's a much more concise, very crystal clear about what's going on, I think.
Yeah, it was like I sat down with like comparing apples and tires.
Yes, this is that. Yeah.
So when we go to present it to the board with the recommendation from the finance, we could probably put in there those key changes just to summarize. You know how we do the.
Really helpful.
Yep.
You know.
Any other comments, changes?
Where are we standing on the definitions, guys?
Where do you want to stand?
Front of my view.
I don't get a vote. I'm not a
Look.
voting member.
I'm not a,
You're just here.
let me, can I just say this? I've written my share of investment policy statements, and I've read too many to care about. I've never seen definitions up front. I don't, if that's where everybody wants them, that's fine. I would vote no, but, you know, it's a committee, so. But if we do put them up front, I would ask that they be after section 2. Because one of the things I think is really important in an investment policy statement is to be very crystal clear right up front, what are the investment objectives of these pool of assets. And whenever I see a lot of old policy statements that have been around for a while, what I feel is the most important statement gets pushed farther and farther down into the document, and it loses its importance. When I rewrote Winterthur Museum's investment policy statement, the first section, first paragraph is the investment objectives and goals. It's crystal clear to what you're trying to do with this statement.
That's the way you write from a consultant point of view.
Yeah, well, very crystal clear. So I just don't want that to get buried, is what I'm trying to say.
I totally agree with you, but I also agree with you in terms of definitions in the back. But I'm also.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, and written also policies and read many, many statutes and regulations over decades, purpose is always up front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what we're talking about.
I'm okay with purpose up front. I'm just saying,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But the definitions usually follow
Yeah.
that. You know, the historical is up front, purpose up front. But then the definitions follow, so that when you finish reading what's in the document, you understand. Or you go back, that's a defined term, it's up front. You always went up front to look for the defined term. And I mean, again, that's just my experience reading tons of laws and regulations over decades.
Well, let me just, I don't, this doesn't have to be a big, we got a committee here, we can vote and just be done with it. And, you know, this is, none of this, as long as, in my mind, definitions come after the investment objectives.
Absolutely.
But I would prefer to leave definitions in the back for readability. That's me personally. But if Richard wants to take a committee vote, and then we can just move on from this. I think it's.
How about a footnote that definitions are in the back?
What's that?
A footnote about
Oh.
the appendix for the definition.
Yeah, tell them where the definition, tell them in the first page somewhere that the definitions are in the back.
Well, to be quite honest, and Sharon, I don't disagree with her comment up front. We don't really have a little
A table of contents.
table of contents. I mean, we got everything numbered here. We can just have a table of contents, and then there's 2 items in the appendix as it's written, definitions and the summary of the table of, you know, how these things are. But that would be another addition. You know, I wouldn't, doesn't bother me one bit, but maybe it's clarifying for people.
Bob, what do you like?
As long as they're in there.
Flip a coin. If,
Well, then you're gonna have to go through your ethics back to find all these firms in.
All the terms are defined.
Yeah, they're defined in the back, so anything that has a definition, I capitalized.
So you're not gonna define, you know, what I'm saying here is that you have DCM, TB.
Oh, yeah, I'm spelling those out. I have a note to spell those out.
You're gonna,
Yeah.
every one of these things.
Yes,
And they should be. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, but if you have
And-
definitions up front.
That was my note. Well, even if we put it after section 2, we would still do it, but that was in my original notes that I need to fix that, but I didn't.
Okay. All right.
I feel like we're leaving as is.
Okay, as is. Do we want to add a table of contents? Section 1, section 2, what page they're on?
In the title, should that be policy, or is there a cover sheet that says following is new
No,
policy?
no, because you have to remember that this is going to be inserted in the compilation of policies. So you don't want a cover sheet in the middle of a document. Yeah,
I think a table of contents is helpful.
we wouldn't want to put a table of contents either.
No, up front. What you just said?
I thought you said that, Sharon.
Well, I just simply said. If this was if this was like an independent document, I would put a table of contents. But because this is gonna go inside a 45-page document,
Yeah.
you're not gonna wanna put a table of contents in the middle of it.
That's right. Well, we already have one in there.
Do we? Well, we're getting ready to change that one too.
Yeah, we're getting to that, Crystal.
It
was good to said that.
What would be helpful to read this and understand what's ahead? Table of contents would be helpful. You know, you're only talking about 3 or 4 lines, right? 9 lines.
Probably, yeah, 8 or 9, whatever the,
Yeah.
whatever the sections are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm good with the table of contents if, I don't want to share into,
Just more clarity there.
Yep, that's fine.
yeah.
Just know that she hates you all now.
I do not.
I thought it was her great
a very
idea.
strong word.
You know,
Table of contents.
I changed it. I can do that.
So,
But move the deputy subcontractor.
I'm sort of understanding that there's another draft of this coming, and it's
So
cleaner.
there's gonna be, the changes that I already
just talked
mentioned.
about.
Yep.
And then,
Do you want to see another draft before we take it? Do you feel that you need another draft?
I don't know, I'm just, I'm
Really ask you, where are we?
you saying, by
This and Thursday, we
stick it on the agenda, or?
It would be next month.
Yeah.
It would be next month.
Yeah, so that's the question.
you can just send it out and just get our approval through email, right?
No, no, no.
Can we,
No, because of.
FOIA. I mean, if we're planning on having another meeting 7 days prior or whenever to the September board meeting, then we can just bring the polished policy with us, and then hopefully we won't have a whole lot of discussion. We'll be like, all right, looks good.
Everybody in agreement, all
Yep,
finished.
yep.
Okay, suggestion. A table of contents with the appendix and the
Yep,
thing in the back.
yep.
And the changes that we've gone over with the Roman numerals and the letters and the numbers.
They're not really material changes, so,
No.
right,
you know, I'm not, can we just?
that is up to the committee.
Yeah, and when we have something like this with the board, usually we make a motion to approve with,
Subject to.
yep, to the changes we discussed.
I mean,
Either way, it's not gonna go back to the board till September, because the agenda's already set for Wednesday.
So can I have a motion to approve with changes that we've talked about?
Motion to approve with changes.
Yeah, which changes?
No, all the ones Kim
That
said.
everybody knows.
Yes.
As discussed.
So somebody want a second?
Second.
All, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, but I don't want to lose sight that there are some operational implications of this that are real, and we've got to talk about that, not in this meeting, but it's going to
So,
affect our relationship with UBS.
Would our next meeting, can we talk about procedures? Would procedures still be reviewed by finance committee, or would it just be advisory
Yep,
or
What
administrative?
procedures,
yes.
as an example, are we talking about?
Like for when money is moved of having 2 approvals, is that an email and them responding yes? Is it something printed and put onto the GL transaction?
I think that's an internal,
Yeah.
an
You know
internal
what would be
process.
helpful is that if you, we don't need to get into procedures.
Yeah.
And read it, it's not our role to approve procedures, that's a management thing, from my view. But it would be helpful to say, as a result, information only, as a result of this policy, the administrative team reviewed its internal procedures and came back and are in the process of changing these procedures. That's all we need to know. Just advise us of what's happening to the extent that how this policy impacts the day-to-day procedures. It's just informational. And then, you know, we can come back and say, well, what about this procedure?
Yeah.
What about that procedure? But at least we'll understand,
Yeah.
you know, the magnitude of what's here.
future agenda topics. I think we added the pension options as a future topic.
Oh, right, it was just today.
Forgot to ask the auditors, they mentioned that you don't have different policies here. Should we? Where was that?
Can you be more specific?
There's a section that says, we don't have this policy, you don't have that policy, we would review this, that, blah, blah, blah. I can't see anymore. Where is that? Talk about policies.
Richard, while they're looking for that, I think maybe a tweak on what's here right now.
Yes,
There's
please.
something that says cash reserve policy. Was that referring to our FDIC insured? Because the other version of this was, I think we need to go and re-look at our formulas for reserves. So that wouldn't be cash reserve policy. It would be reevaluate or relook at the current formulas that underlie our reserve policies.
So it is actually called the cash reserve policy.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay, and that's what it's meant to be,
yeah,
because that's not
how much money
covered
we
in
keep reserved,
the,
and that's like the operational, the
In the
capital,
capital.
the deposits.
Okay.
Self-insurance.
This is simply just reviewing it.
Yeah, so
It needs to be updated.
there's formulas in there, and it feels they're very important formulas, and it's a lot of money, and it feels to me like it's probably something that hasn't been looked at for a very long time, and I think this is a great time for us to go back and, the operating reserve, the size of the operating reserve is driven by a 4-piece formula. The capital reserves are driven by formulas, and
So it needs to be looked up.
we need to look at it. Yeah. And I didn't realize they were called cash reserve policy, but that's fine. Maybe we should, maybe we should even rethink that name a little bit, because we have a richer understanding of these things now.
So that when you look at it, you
now that we have the policy more
Yes.
clearly, simply documented.
I've called financial reserve policy, which has deposit reserves, capital reserves, operating reserve, they're all, under that. But there are all our financial reserve policies. Cash is one of those words that actually has a name, it has a loaded, meaning.
Page 20 of the audit report that says we don't have formal policy on concentration risk, credit risk, interest rate risk.
Which section? Which section? The up top?
It's the main,
Oh, concentration of risk. I'm sorry.
Oh, yep, okay.
Has investment policy. Obviously, this is the old investment policy they used. Then it goes on to say a bunch of other policies that we don't have. Because the question is, should we?
So you won't, this is a topic.
I'm sorry, what page is that? Is it, which,
20.
Page 20.
on 3A?
Yes.
Okay. So this was all investments, you're talking about the investment policy here?
Underneath the investment policy.
Oh, concentration and credit risk.
They reviewed, and they said there's a mention of a bunch of other policies that we don't have.
So one of the things that the old policy and a lot of other policies are written is when you're holding individual securities, and it's almost as if you're the money manager. So your money manager, UBS, for example, if they're investing in bonds, we may restrict them to investment grade bonds and things like that. But if you actually look at the way we're talking about investing now, this whole thing has changed dramatically. I'm not sure any of this stuff would be.
Oh, no, we're don't talk about that.
Yeah, okay, that's why. Just
The investment policy they reviewed is the old one. For the purposes of this.
Yes.
That's all gone.
Yeah. But what was there? I'm sorry, I wanted to jump in with if I knew what you were
The three
asking.
underneath investment policy?
Yes, concentration and credit risk.
Yep, credit risk and then interest rate risk.
Yep.
They mentioned that we do not have a formal policy, and he's suggesting, do we need a policy specifically for those
Because
three?
the topic of discussion is, for our next agenda.
Yep, yep.
What policies do we need to
So
look at?
he just wants to have that discussion.
Oh, okay. I think we kind of nixed all this stuff just because of the way the new system is written, but we don't have credit risk because we're only allowing investments in government securities and FDIC insured bank accounts, as an example.
So maybe we should
So this stuff,
enumerate that.
yeah.
Spell that out, document that for history, for historical purposes' sake.
In interest rate risk, we've actually, because we're only investing in money markets and bank accounts, we have no interest rate risk per se. It's all been nixed. But if we were investing in 30-year bonds, we'd have a huge amount of credit risk or interest rate risk, I'm sorry.
For
So again, document the reasons for it, so that when they come back and they say, yeah, we have something, a statement of policy or something.
And then specifically for interest rate risk, they mentioned pension trust fund, limiting investment maturities.
So, but then they told us that it was frozen. So this gets back to that cash matching stuff. If we have a frozen plan, we know what the liability is. We can have an offsetting, we can kind of manage that. And I thought that's what they were telling me we already did. But maybe we need to relook at the pension plan a little bit.
Including payouts.
Yeah. I mean, it's a complicated area, gets into actuaries and all sorts of stuff, but I'd like to maybe make sure we understand exactly what's going on with that pension plan, if it falls under the remit of the finance committee. Yeah, I don't know if it does.
Well, it talks about investment as well.
Yeah.
Future topic. Anything else?
We were going to have, we asked, again, part of the rewriting the investment policy statement is what are we going to do with the long-term capital reserve, not the short-term capital reserve. So this is the stuff that our projects that are out 5, 6, 7 years that we may be reserving for ahead of time. So we have 3 options there. One of them is to invest them in a bank account in a money market fund, and that particular option is envisioned in the investment policy statement. Another possibility is we invest them in an asset allocation strategy, which would have equities and bonds, and we'd have ranges around it. That's currently the way they're invested, and that's what UBS is doing right now. The third possibility is what's called a cash flow matching strategy. So you would say, in 8 years, I need to have $3 million for this project. If I invested at this interest rate, I only need to put away $2 million now, because by the time that bond matures, it'll be. So my suggestion, but I think everybody in this committee, we talked about this before, was in agreement that for educational purposes, there are managers that will do cash matching strategies. We maybe should have 1 or 2 advisors come in and talk about how they do it so that we can kind of educate ourselves. Because at some point, we're going to have to determine how we want to invest the long-term capital reserves.
And UBS did already reach out of coming in to talk about our investment policy strategies and how they fit with what they can offer.
Yeah.
Money from UBS.
The money market did move, yes.
We really need to stick to the agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We need to stick to the agenda.
Well, how much money do we have out there? I mean,
Yes. I don't want
how
to get
much money do
reprimanded
we
by
have out
Mike.
there?
For our investment with UBS,
Well, no, not for UBS, but how much of that 7 to 100-year obligations do we have that we would have to match?
so our current reserve policy only goes to 5 years. So now we're trying to look out further to better prepare ourselves of doing.
So, for example,
cash
we have an obligation to be timed, but for the deal with the county,
Yes.
okay? And we would try to match that possibly.
I think Bob's just trying to understand the magnitude of the dollars we're talking about. I don't have them off the top of my head. I don't know if you do either, but that's pretty quickly, that could be gotten pretty quickly. And that would be contingent with the way the current formulas are set up. If we modify the formulas, those numbers will change.
Okay.
That county obligation, is that $40 million?
It's a cap.
Up to.
Up to $40 million. So where's that coming from?
Good question.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Do we have a second?
Uh-huh.
Aye.